Walking these streets, shadows fall, lost in a world, echoes call, searching for light, voices true, St. James Church in the heart of the blue. Glorify God, nurture all, share the gospel, hear the call, that is what we do at St. James.
Well, welcome to our 75th anniversary interviews. We're here with Jeannie, Starr.
Yes.
Yeah, and you've been a long-time member of the congregation, and your mother was one of the charter members, right?
Yes, she was.
So how did you come into the congregation?
Well, my mother, Edna Cardwell, had 4 kids, and so she brought us to church. We were all baptized and everything, and so we just always came. Now, at times we were a little bit difficult when we got to be a little bit of teenagers, maybe a little bit younger, because we would lay in bed and wouldn't get up, and she kept on us. Once in a great while, we got away with it. But it didn't make any difference how late we were. She marched us up right in front of church.
Right to the front.
Yes, she did. But we were all very active in the youth group, and we were all confirmed and stuff, going into the, racing in the church.
Right. And your mom did a lot in the church. She was like youth group leader and stuff like that.
She worked a lot. I mean, she worked second shift, and raising 4 kids really wasn't easy. So mainly, I think she was Crisis Pregnancy Center. Laura Pritchett was a good friend of hers. And the youth board, when the kids started, getting older and stuff, she was a very big historian. She knew at the Easter breakfast what all we needed, and she had a list for Phil and everything that was needed. So she was really big in the youth group.
Yeah. And she knew a lot of the history. I remember when I first met her that she was just like the history book of the congregation.
Her mind was very, very sharp and stuff. Yeah, she had a very sharp mind.
Now, how old did she live to be?
She was 103 months.
Wow.
And stuff. Wow. She passed away last July.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So what roles or positions have you held in the church?
Well, I worked in the nursery quite a bit, and I was on the fellowship team, and then I was also on the youth board.
Oh, okay.
And I was fortunate to go to the National Youth Gathering with my daughter, and that was in Atlanta.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are always enjoyable. So yeah. So what are some people that have had a big impact on you?
Pastor Feeney was a big impact. I had him when I had confirmation. And I remember when he came to the church, I was 10 years old. And he was, from what I remember, he was the first pastor that sang the eulogy. And so I remember peeking and, looking at the other kids, and we were laughing. Not making fun, but it was just so different that he sung the eulogy. And then Pastor Collison was a big influence and stood by me on some tough times in my family. Dottie and Dwayne have always, of course, the McClure family goes way back, and have always been a big influence, and also in my daughter's life too. Yeah. And then Delva and Pauline were very loving and caring and stuff. So they were big people to me.
Right. Yeah.
So
Okay. Um, so what are some significant stories or events that stand out to you?
Well, I remember my confirmation day, and I remember what I was wearing,
Oh,
and
wow.
standing up, it was really, really hot, and I thought I was going to faint.
Oh,
And so I do remember that. I remember I have three children, um, but Gary and Jesse were close in age, and they would fight. And at the end, and we sat in the back of the church, and Ernie Garner, I don't know whether I left a little bit early or maybe after the service was over, he came up to me and he says, "Things do get better." Because they really liked to, fight. We had the youth board had a lot of ski retreats.
Oh,
I did ski on the smaller hills, but I was surprised of how my nephew and my son took off and was in the big hills.
oh, wow.
Um, we had outings at Valparaiso, Light That Light, I think it was his name. We also went in the wintertime on a retreat in northern Michigan and that was really, really neat. We used a great big inner tube and
Oh,
slid down a hill,
oh, wow.
and that was pretty neat. We had Christmas Eve programs every year with the children, and it was probably Christmas Eve, maybe 7 o'clock, and we had the manger scene, and that was that way for years. And when we left, we got a bag of candy and an orange and an apple
Oh,
to
yeah.
take home. And since my mom always volunteered to work Christmas Day, we would have our Christmas on Christmas Eve. So after
Oh,
the program, we went home and opened the gifts. But we had somebody playing Mary and Jesus and the whole 9 yards.
oh, wow.
And so
Wow.
that was really kind of neat. Um, the youth group, had a lot of events. Like I said, I was involved. They had cookouts. They took the kids boating, and they were very, very active and stuff. I don't ever remember. Now, I had my nephews that grew up in the church, and they were older than my kids. They were very active, and so was my kids.
Oh, okay.
Um, I might mention that Phil and Peggy and Pastor Carlson was a great influence with my daughter,
Oh,
Jessica. Jessie went her first year of college to IWU, and then she says, "I'm transferring, I'm Lutheran, and I want to go to a Lutheran church." And I said, "But Jessie," she wanted to go up to, up in
oh,
Michigan.
Concordia, Ann Arbor.
Yeah,
Oh,
Concordia, Ann Arbor, and she was going into family life.
oh, okay.
And so I said, "Jesse, you'll lose all your state scholarships. You'll lose it." But she wanted to go where she was going, and so she did graduate from Concordia at Ann
Oh,
Arbor,
wow.
and then she went to a church. There was several churches that sought her, and she went to uh, up by Holland, Michigan,
Oh,
and
okay.
that's where she met her husband. And so she was, in the church. She did go on and finish her education as a social worker, so she's a social worker in the schools. But
Okay.
she's very active in church and holds offices within
Oh,
the
wow.
Lutheran Church up there.
Oh,
So
wow.
I credit Phil
Sure,
and Peggy
sure.
and also Pastor Carlson for
Yeah.
that and stuff. And then I also, commend the church with my grandkids too,
Oh, yeah.
being,
Yeah.
I got 5 of them that, have been confirmed, and, there's one more, but
Yeah.
they have, it has made an influence on them too.
Great kids.
And
Great
I believe
kids.
that once kids grow up in the church, they either revert or,
Yeah, yeah.
they don't lose it
Right,
completely.
right.
They don't lose it,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Any others?
Um, I think they had camping out at the Converse Church.
Oh, okay.
Had a retreat out, not the Converse Church, but campground,
Oh, okay.
and had some picnics, there. Um, the kids all went to the National Youth Groupings, the nephews and everything. So as far as, you know, nothing. I mean, I was interested. I still remember a lot of the members, a lot of the older members that have gone.
Yeah.
And then I was looking at a roster that goes back to 1995 and looking, because I feel like there's not very many of us older members left.
Right.
But I counted 16 plus that were,
Oh.
and I was kind of surprised that some of them went back that far. Aarons and the Bouchers and Browns and Chambers, Kleins, Everetts, McElwain, Longnecker, Roselle, Tudors, Welton, Willman, and Wolf. They all go back.
Oh, wow.
So at least 30 years. So I was
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised because I remember all the ones that have passed.
Sure.
And stuff. So I do remember that. So, yeah.
Sure. So, what are some significant changes that have happened since you've been here?
Well, one of the changes is communion used to only be once a month. Way back then, and now it's pretty much weekly. The daycare.
Oh, yeah.
Come and gone, and they used to have baseball teams, and the kids, my nephews, would play on the baseball team, and I would go out and watch the baseball team, the baseball teams play.
Sure.
Other than just general changes from minister to minister,
Sure.
and stuff. So.
Okay. How has St. James impacted your faith walk?
Well, to see my kids grow and my grandkids, and stuff. When my grandson Wyatt gets in the car and I was taking him to school, I have a thing on my phone that comes out on the car, and he's always playing the religious songs.
Oh, okay.
And singing to the religious songs and stuff. And I said, well, you ought to join the choir.
Yeah.
I think, in seeing my daughter, being very involved in her church, I have, with taking care of my mom a lot and being with her, I have not been that active in church.
Oh, okay.
And I, hope to become more active,
Sure.
in that.
Sure.
And stuff. So.
Yeah. We've got Wyatt doing soundboard and stuff like
and
that.
he enjoys.
Yeah.
He does. And stuff.
He does.
So.
He does. And him and Kara going to the
National
Youth Gathering here in a few weeks. So that'll be a good experience.
And Wyatt's never flown, so I think.
Oh, hasn't he? Oh,
no,
that'll be good.
He really hasn't gone very many places, at all. He did go to Michigan with me a couple weeks ago to watch lacrosse. The other grandson playing lacrosse.
Okay.
So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what are your hopes for St. James in the future?
Well, I think to grow, to bring younger people in, because we tend to have a little bit of an older congregation.
Yeah.
I think Linda Kritzinger is really missed. She was a great song leader, and I think that it kind of helps us with the songs.
Yeah.
So a strong song leader, I think, would be very beneficial, and maybe activities with other Lutheran churches, especially with the kids, or something that might,
Sure.
where they get to know other kids.
Yeah.
And stuff. Or even, I know at Peggy at one time, and I thought it was good, that she took the kids around to different churches to experience, the other churches.
Yeah.
And everything.
Yeah.
So those would be, to grow, would actually.
Right. Yeah. Well, anything else? Anything I didn't ask you, or you wanted to?
No, I think that, I just, like I said, I remember all those, people, from way back, and
Yeah.
You know, and I have the memories, their faces and,
Sure.
you know, and stuff. I remember Grandma and Grandpa McClure, and
Oh,
yeah, I just remember, you know, so much, you know,
yeah.
going back.
Yeah. Well, cool. Cool. Well, thank you for coming in. I appreciate it. I know your mom being one of the charter members and the last charter member.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
and then you've been a member all your life, and so it's good.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
All right. Thank you for interviewing me.
Appreciate it. Well, thank you for joining us for our 75th Conversations, and we'll see you next week. Peace out.
Walking these streets, shadows fall, lost in a world, echoes call, searching for light, voices true. St. James Church in the heart of the blue. Glorify God, nurture all, share the gospel, hear the call. That is what we do at St. James, breaking chains, singing new names, pushing through the night, feeling small, seeking the answers stall, windows of gray, stained with hue, where mission shines through. Glorify God, nurture all, share the gospel, hear the call. That is what we do at St. James, breaking chains, singing new names. Heartbeats pounding, truth revealed. In the silence, wounds are healed. Faith in motion, spirits move. In this place we find our groove. In the dark streets, hope we find. Unity glowing.